Today on Straight from the Source with Haley Watts, our guest is Matthew Allen, who is the new superintendent for the district for the Northern Buttes State Parks, right?
That's
How
correct.
long have you been in this role now?
About 3 months.
Okay.
Going on 3 months, yeah.
Tell me, well, so far, I mean, what have you been dealing with?
Really, I came in just trying to learn, listen to the community,
Yeah.
and kind of get my bearings on the operations and what's going on and what makes this place tick.
And you're not new to state parks, right? You're from kind of the Bay Area.
Right. Well, originally I'm from just over the hill in Janesville. Kind of grew up, so this is my old stomping grounds
Okay.
over on this side. But yeah, just came here from the Bay Area. I was there for the past about 3 years as the deputy district superintendent.
Yeah.
And I've been with state parks for going on 20 years.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, state parks, I mean, that's a lot of territory here. I mean, we have a lot of obviously private land, federal land, and then there's everything that's managed by the state.
Right.
One of the big ones, of course, and I'm sure one of the big things that you've been kind of figuring out how to proceed with is the situation with the Bidwell Mansion, right? Which we lost about a year ago.
Yeah.
Do you have any updates for me on that? I know that we're kind of in this phase of getting community input about what comes next, right?
Right, yeah, just such an unfortunate loss to a significant cultural resource, you know, both for the state and the local community.
Yeah.
Right now, we're trying to move on to the next phase, which is really getting our structural assessment, trying to figure out what's remaining, what can be used, really what our options are. So we just received a draft feasibility, sort of a structural feasibility report, and that's being worked on with our technicians out of headquarters.
Okay.
They're making some edits, they'll send it back to the contractor, and then hopefully we'll have a final draft here that we can release in the next couple of weeks.
So it's interesting because you're saying structural feasibility report. So there is a chance that maybe some of that could be saved and like refurbished and rebuilt from what's left.
That's right. There's a chance, and we really want to explore all of our options. And the document that we're getting is not a decision-making document. It's just another piece of data that we have to help us along the way.
Right.
So there could be a range of options from either rebuilding, it may be a full reconstruction, there may be other things that it all really depends on what's in that feasibility report, and which will include cost estimates and everything that will give us some information.
Yeah.
And then we have the Reimagined Bidwell Mansion effort, which is really a public-facing community effort to get all of the input from the public.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to make this decision in a vacuum, right? We want to be very transparent. It's very significant to the local community, so we want their input on what they want to see and how they can participate and be a part of this moving forward.
Yeah. It's crazy how sometimes it's like you don't appreciate, not speaking for anybody else, maybe even just myself, though, you don't appreciate what something means to you until you lose it, right? I mean, I think people who live in Chico, they've always just kind of, the Bidwell Mansion, it's sort of just this local symbol of the community, right? It was on the police vehicles, it still is.
Right.
It was on our Action News Now background. And just the idea that like it was intentionally destroyed or taken away, it was pretty stunning for so many people.
Yeah, it's just, it's hard to even describe in words. It's just ridiculous because you have such a cultural resource, this treasure that, like I said, it's not just a community treasure. It was a state resource. It was on the National Historic Register of Historic Places. And just for one person to come in and just, destroy it in an instant, it's just, it's absurd. It's senseless. It's selfish. But we really want to look forward to how we can move past that, put it in the past, and really focus on what's next for the history of the mansion.
So I know the governor came out with his budget proposal in recent days. Was there any indication, I didn't break down this piece of it, like what state parks can expect to get and like what that could mean for our area?
It's really too early to tell yet. You know, the governor's budget in January, it's kind of a starting point,
Yeah.
and between now and May, there'll be a lot of discussions and a lot of moving pieces to see where we finally land. But I will say that this governor's administration has been very open to and supportive of state parks over the past several years.
Yeah.
We've been doing, you know, everybody's been experiencing cuts and,
Right.
and position cuts, and we're trying to do the best we can, but it could have been a lot worse. So we've been able to really focus on getting the resources that we need to keep the parks open.
Yeah.
And the governor's been very supportive of that and providing us with those resources.
It's been interesting, this whole era of like DOGE is like the biggest example at the federal level, right? Of this like being more efficient, and where do we cut spending to promote efficiency? I mean, the news industry is not exempt from that. You know,
Sure.
even the cameras that we're looking at here, they used to be, when I first started working here, there was a human behind them moving them, right? And now it's like it's programmed. AI has been a big tool that the news industry's used to become more efficient.
Sure.
I'm curious how, like, during your time with state parks, like what you've seen, how has like the state responded to those calls for efficiency within your department?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we're not exempt from budget cuts, like we said, and we've always been kind of really focused on trying to get a lot of deferred maintenance. Our parks are really old, and there's a lot of infrastructure, and that takes a lot of funding, and especially when you're talking about public works contracts, it just escalates those costs.
Right.
And, you know, my vision for coming into this district is really about back to basics. I want to be visitor focused. And what that looks like is making sure that people, when they come to our parks, the restrooms are clean, the trash is picked up, the
Right.
signs are clean, the trails are open. Those little basic things, like brilliance in the basics. So when people come out, they have a safe, welcoming experience.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of families, they save up to come out to our parks. This is, for us, it might be a random Tuesday at work. For them, it's their annual family vacation. And
Right.
that's a lot for us to live up to, a lot of pressure to make sure that they go away with a really good experience.
Right.
And, you know, one dirty restroom, that's what they're going to go away remembering, no matter how good the view was. So
Right.
really want to focus on that, and that's where we get our efficiency. Instead of looking at some of these really big, shiny projects, which might be a nice to have, we really want to just focus on what we have, maintaining it, keeping it nice, keeping it safe, being friendly and welcoming.
Okay, so let's talk about like Lake Oroville and the facilities there, because largely Lake Oroville's kind of funny, right? Because DWR, it's Butte County, but State Parks owns a lot of that land. Is that correct?
So we don't own the land, but we
Okay,
manage the
it.
recreation.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So, you know, one thing, it's interesting because I know a lot of people go out there and they take their houseboats and they go out there to fish or wakeboard or whatnot. And like the rules at the marinas, are they state parks, or are they like Bidwell Canyon, Lime Saddle? Like, who's the boss over there?
Yeah, so we own them, but the marinas themselves, we concession out to
Okay.
a private business.
Yeah.
So we have a concession contract with them, and we have, you know, within that contract, we make sure that they're following state park rules and policies, and also trying to be visitor focused.
Okay.
But yeah, they're great partners. There's a lot of things that they do for us that we can't do, and that's really what our concession program is about. As a state agency, we can only do so many things, and we need those types of partners to come in and help us provide those services to the visitors.
Are there certain services, like what kind of services could people expect if they were going to go take the family out to Lake Oroville for the weekend?
Sure, it really depends on what they want to do, which is so great about the area that we live in. There's so many diverse options of recreation. So whether you want to go fishing, camping, hiking, bird watching, and just go relax in nature, there's so many things that you could do. So you could go rent a boat. We also have something really cool on Lake Oroville, which is very unique in the state, and that's floating campsites.
Okay.
And you can, I think the capacity is 20 or 25 people, so you can get a couple of families or a big group together. You could rent a boat, and you actually camp on these big floating campsites that have restrooms and some a deck up on top, and it's just really exciting opportunity that you don't really see anywhere else
I've
in the
lived here
state.
for 9 years and I never heard of this before.
They are super cool. The first time I saw them, I was really just blown away at the size, and then
Yeah.
our crew that maintains them, they're amazing.
So do you go to like state parks to reserve it, or do you just show up at like Lime Saddle, or how do you
You
move
do.
forward
So
with it?
all of our reservations are on Reserve California. So you
Okay.
go to the website and you just search for Lake Oroville and then the floating
Yeah.
campsites.
I heard about floating bathrooms.
We do have floating
Yeah.
bathrooms as well.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's super cool. So, Lake Oroville is huge, and if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
out there boating and you got to go, it can take you a long time to get to the bathroom. So we have floating restrooms that are strategically located all over the lake to
Yeah.
just make it more convenient.
How's everything looking right now out on the lake with the, because I know a lot of times after we have a lot of rainfall and the lake gets pretty full, we see driftwood and that sort of thing. Are you advising boaters to keep an eye out for anything?
Yeah, just always with the nature of a reservoir with the fluctuating lake levels, that's always a concern. So
Yeah.
boaters should always be on the lookout for that, wearing their life jackets, being safe. Right now, the levels have come up significantly, and it's actually really nice. You get the shoreline that's being covered up. All of our boat ramps are in place, and
Yeah.
right now, people don't think about maybe boating or going out to state parks in January, but after the rains, we've got plenty of water.
Yeah.
The sun has been out.
Yeah.
It's warm.
It's California. Come on, it's 60s.
Incredible. Yeah, I was up at Bernie Falls yesterday.
Yeah.
There were maybe 4 or 5 people in the park.
Okay.
The falls were going off. The river was beautiful. The lake was just serene. I'm like, why is nobody out here?
Right.
It's, so we have a 3-day weekend coming up. I encourage people to, if you're not getting out to your state parks, they're right here in our backyard and available.
Did Bernie Falls, was there some recent trail work? The years just fly by so quickly, but I feel like I remember there being a lot of work done to kind of stabilize the trail and make sure it was in good shape.
Yeah, there was. So there's still one trail that we're having some trouble with, and that's one of our ADA trails to the falls. But the other trail that gets you down to the bottom of the falls, that one has been reopened and it's ready for business. So,
Okay, yeah. Any interesting wildlife sightings in our area recently from people out in the state parks area hiking?
We have been getting a lot of reports of mountain lions
Yeah.
at Bernie Falls
Interesting.
and some of the other parks. But yeah, right now is a great time to go out into the parks and experience wildlife firsthand because there's not a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so you can just sit there and take in the birds and the deer walking by. It's incredible.
Let's talk about mountain lions.
Sure.
So fascinating, right? Because they're one of those animals where, I mean, I'm a big hiker. I love going out on the trails. And I've never not out of fear of like an encounter, right? Because they're so elusive that even if they're there, the odds of you even seeing them are pretty low, right? Because they don't generally want to be seen. It seems like we're hearing reports just all across the western U.S. of more encounters. Do you think it's just because people have their smartphones more, or do you think there are more of them?
I think it might be a combination of both. So the mountain lions have been protected for a lot of years. And I think with all of the conservation efforts across the state, with all of the different agencies, there's a more of a food supply. Deer populations are starting to rebound. So you have mountain lions that hunt deer, and their populations are just growing. And I think the second part of that is that there's more and more people going out into the forest and the wilderness. And so just by numbers, you have more people going out, you're going to have more encounters.
Right.
But there's things you can do to be safe, right? So generally, mountain lions don't want to just jump out and attack you walking down a trail.
Yeah.
Usually, if you're walking and encounter a mountain lion, if you just stop, you face the mountain lion, you make yourself look big, they generally just want to go away. And you can kind of just back out, give it a wide berth, and kind of go in a different direction.
Did you see that video that came out a few years ago where I think it was Colorado, and this guy was out trail running, and I think he came between a mom and her cubs?
I did see that, yeah.
And he was just like, he didn't turn his back to her, right? He kept, and he didn't, when he would bend down to grab the rock, that's when she would sort of pounce. So it's like, you want to stay tall, right? And stay facing them.
That's right. Yeah.
Ooh, I have chills thinking about it. They're such beautiful animals.
They are, yeah.
And of course, we have a ton of black bears out here, right? And one thing I want to bring up with you, I get videos all the time from people who say that, like, oh, this is a brown bear, this is a grizzly bear. But just because it's a black bear doesn't mean its coloring is always black, right? There are plenty of black bears that people might think are grizzlies just because they're light, they have lighter fur.
That's right. There are no grizzlies in California, even though it's on our flag, and
Right.
they were all hunted to extinction.
Yeah.
All of the bears in California are black bears, regardless of color. They do have some bears have different phases, so they can look more of like a light tan or a cinnamon color.
Yeah.
And they can be confused by the public as being a grizzly bear, but
Yeah.
they are a black bear.
And black bears are usually pretty docile. I mean, again, if you threaten them or get between them and their cubs, are they also cubs? Yes.
Yes, they are. Yes, bear cubs.
That's a situation where it could be really dangerous for you. But for the most part, we don't have big bear attacks going on in this district.
That's right. Bear attacks are actually pretty rare. Usually what happens is a bear will get habituated to food. So when you're out camping or even just day use, making sure that your food is cleaned up, you're putting stuff in the trash, it's being locked up and not allowing bears to get to your food.
Yeah.
Because what happens is the bear will continue, oh, that's a food source, he'll get used to it, and then you'll start having some of those interactions. And really the black bear still doesn't want to, he's not looking at you for food.
Yeah.
He's looking at, oh, that's my food, and I'm trying to defend
Right.
it. So
I hear we don't taste good.
yeah,
I don't know.
probably not. I don't know.
We eat so much fast food, you'd think we would taste delicious. Okay, so, it's something I had heard about actually was this coalition, like a grassroots effort to bring grizzlies back to California, arguing that, like, as you said, they're on our flag, they're part of the more native species here, and it could be good for the system, the ecological system. Is that something state parks is aware of or considering?
It's not something that's come up with us at this point in time. It is, just like anything, we would take a look at that. That's a much bigger decision than just state parks.
Yeah.
We have a lot of other state land managers and federal managers, and it would be a really long, thought-out decision before something like that could actually happen.
It always interests me when I hear about these ideas from biologists or whatever, when we talk about reintroducing species, because it's you think about, okay, what the U.S. was like or what California was like when John and Annie Bidwell got here, right? Really different.
Right.
So many elements, millions of people weren't here. And when you think about well, do we want all the species and all the plants and everything that was there then? Would it even work in the modern era, right?
Right. Yeah, that's probably the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
It would be a complete change to what our modern people are used to having
Right.
and dealing with, and it could be very dangerous and it could be devastating. So you would have to weigh out all the possibilities, not just the ecological benefits, but
Right.
what are the social impacts that might
Yeah.
have as well.
I mean, it's that whole situation we're seeing with the wolf conversation, right?
That's right,
Because
yeah.
it's I know that they were intentionally reintroduced in Yellowstone. Were they intentionally brought into California or just kind of guided and protected here?
My understanding is that they just made their way, not
Yeah.
intentionally, but just crossed the
Out
border.
of Yellowstone, right? Or Canada?
They came out of Oregon, I
Oregon.
believe. Yes.
Right. But
And
the Oregon ones, did they come from Canada or Yellowstone?
I
Hard to
really
say.
don't know. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a good question.
Yeah.
But our borders are artificial. We draw a line on
Right.
the map. For
Yeah.
them, they have these huge home ranges
Yeah.
where they're traveling. So
Yeah.
yeah,
We can
it's-
get them those, the collars, the tracking. I mean, we just
Right.
make the electronic fencing, like you do for your dog in the backyard.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, what have you seen within state parks in terms of wolves coming back here? I mean, are there pros, have you seen, for our environment?
I think there will be pros when we're looking at it from an ecological standpoint, because there are these herds of population that they would traditionally hunt. So whenever you take out a keystone species like that, there's some other species that's kind of thrown out of balance, that's not being kept in check. So
Okay.
I don't think we're seeing anything in state parks right now, but it's
Yeah.
something for us to keep an eye on.
Is there what we hear the arguments all the time from a rancher who says, well, they're protected and it's my cattle, it's my livelihood, or the hunter who says, well, that's the deer that I got a deer tag for. What would you say to that argument against having the wolves be here?
It's just about weighing the, the pros and the cons. I think with everything, there's going to be pros and cons of our actions. Anytime we're trying to manipulate an ecosystem and make changes for the better, there's always going to be trade-offs. So really, we need to look at what are our goals and look at that over the long term. If there are wolves that are attacking cattle and ranchers, and that is something that we really need to take seriously and look at and see how we can, what things can we do to mitigate that and protect them, but still allow the wolves to come in and live in their natural environment.
We haven't had any sort of attacks, though, on like people, right? At least not on state parks property.
No, not to my knowledge. In fact, I don't think that there's ever been a case of a wolf attacking a person, at least not in California.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about the original dog, right? I know that there's lots of different theories about how they became like domesticated. But some documentary I saw, and they were talking about how it was just as like dogs were smart enough to realize that they would get more food from us by befriending us, and we would feed them our scraps rather than just one meal from eating us. But if they befriend us, then they get a meal every day, like long term. So maybe they're too intelligent to attack. I don't know.
Maybe.
Just speculating here.
That's funny.
Hard to say. I mean, interactions with wildlife, that's just something that, humanity's always going to have to navigate, right? Especially as we like to build our homes in areas that's up in on the ridge and the foothills. People like to be in nature.
Right.
And so we have to figure out a way to coexist, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why people want to live in those areas. They're drawn there by the vegetation and the wildlife. And, if you wake up in the morning and see deer browsing outside of your window, I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
learning to live with them is a good thing.
Yep. When it comes to different species like native versus invasive plants and that sort of thing, do state parks play a role in, like, are you guys on the attack on the star thistle, or you leave that up to the firefighters?
Oh, no, we play a huge role in non-native species management. So it's both a detriment to the ecosystem of the parks, and it also, as you mentioned, it causes fuel loading that stays around a lot longer than the native vegetation would.
Yeah.
So we put a lot of effort into managing those. So we used to say we were trying to eradicate these non-native species, but they've taken such a stronghold that now it's more about trying to manage them and try to shrink the populations over time and try to more control them than eradicate them.
Okay, just because eradication is impossible, essentially.
Pretty much,
Okay.
Yeah, unless you catch it early. So we do have a program called EDRR, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but it's Early Detection Rapid Response.
Okay.
So we have volunteers and staff that when they see a non-native species pop up, they'll document it, they'll bring it back to the office, and if that's the first one that we've seen, they'll go out and they'll immediately treat it before it can grow seeds and drop seeds, and then hopefully we can contain it before it does become established.
I feel like I saw some memo go out, it might have been from state parks like a year ago, or maybe from some like ag office, but it was what was it, an EDRR?
EDRR.
About some weird bug, like some weird worm or something that caused, I don't know, they were very concerned about this worm, not the screw worm, but it was something else.
It must have been from the ag department. I
Yeah,
don't
it must
remember from
have
state
been.
parks,
Yeah.
but I know there was something regarding the orange trees and a species that was attacking them.
Yeah, might have been, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, there's so many strange things you're hearing about that kind of just, I mean, that's how life works, right? Species, they grow, they spread out just like the wolves, just like everything else. We haven't seen murder hornets, right, come down south yet?
No, not yet.
That's good. But mosquitoes either? Are we starting to see certain ones that carry different viruses making their way up from Southern California?
Yeah, there is a chance of West Nile virus, and it affects people differently.
Right.
But as the sun starts coming out and starts warming up, we definitely get a lot of mosquitoes around here. So wear your repellent.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that you were talking about when it came to like non-native plant species is like an enhanced wildfire risk, right?
That's right.
But that's not the only way that state parks addresses wildfire concerns, right?
No, correct. So we've been fortunate since about 2021. We've got a significant investment from the governor's office to state parks to help manage the landscape in terms of wildfire and forest resilience. So we were able to create a team of professionals in forestry and natural resource management, and they are going out and they're doing prescribed fire. They're working with the local agencies, the local fire departments and CAL FIRE. They are doing pile burning, vegetation thinning. And since 2021, I don't have the exact number, but it's in the hundreds of acres that they've treated on state park property just in our district.
When we talk about forest management, would you say that, like, if people weren't the way that we are, if we weren't civilized and we didn't build these beautiful homes and businesses and infrastructure that we want to preserve and protect, would we still manage forests the same way? Like, is having the type of control burns and clearing and all that stuff that we do and controlling fires, is it good for all of California and all its plants and animals and people, or is it largely focused on protecting us?
I think it's both, and fire. There's different fire regimes, we call it, depending on where you're at in the state. So there are forests that were adapted to these really high catastrophic fires, like over on the Coast Ranges that had these long fire return intervals. You know, they might go 100 or 150 years without fire and build up all of this material, and then a natural fire would come through, like from a lightning strike, and then completely clear cut the forest and then open up the canopy, and then a new forest would regrow.
Yeah.
Whereas like in the Sierras, you would have these more frequent low intensity fires that would kind of clear out the underbrush but not harm the trees.
Right.
And just a number of things have disrupted that, not just us moving in and around these wildlife urban interfaces, but just some of the changing climate, the different things that we're experiencing, and it's just inevitable that we have to do things to help manage these forests, manage the wildfire risk, and protect our neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there have been different like debates with how like the Forest Service would have a policy about, well, it was a lightning fire, it started, it's super rural, we're just going to let it burn as long as it's not coming, you know, because it's like a control burn. I mean, that's the natural order of things. But then you have things like the Dixie Fire where it's like, oh shoot, but it's still burning. And then it's still burning. And then suddenly it's like 1 million acres and the whole forest is lost.
Right.
So yeah, it's tough.
It is, yeah. We create wildfire management plans, and they're not these static documents. They're very dynamic and based on lessons learned. We try to update them and try to make them relevant and at the top of mind of everybody on when there's a fire, what you should do. So state parks' role in wildfire response is really just to help be there to guide the efforts on the state park property, just to point out where there may be sensitive resources. But the actual fire response and how it's handled is going to be left to the responding fire agencies, so whether that's CAL FIRE or U.S. Forest Service or one of those.
Right. There's a lot of working in collaboration with state parks.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're always like in hands with another agency of some sort, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just the way we have to be. We can't do it alone. We need our partners, both our partnering agencies and our other partners, like our nonprofits. And that just helps keep us tick.
Yeah. Any standout agencies here locally that you've, like, I know it's been, 3 months now, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're working with CAL FIRE Butte County. I mean, countless agencies. Have you worked like closely with any in particular that come to mind?
Yeah, the first one comes to mind is DWR out of the Lake Oroville facility. Really great people. They were extremely welcoming when I first got here, and they've been doing this a long time, and they kind of have that lake management down to a T. And they're really great.
Have you guys talked at all about what you're going to do if we get the licensing agreement actually signed and all the stuff that had been planned for Lake Oroville for recreation and everything actually comes to fruition?
Sure. Yeah, it is a lot, and I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that and start trying to learn and figure it out. And we've had some preliminary discussions, but more to come on that here soon.
I think some people are like, that's never going to happen. It's going to be held up in the federal government. Like FERC will never push it through. because I think there's some environmental holdups right now, is like what I've been told. But some people are so excited that it could change everything, put Orville on the map, and it would be a totally different picture.
Yeah, it is really exciting. There was a lot of facilities that were planned in that in that recreation management plan, and it is really exciting that it's already such a great destination for recreation, and just adding some facilities to enhance that would be welcome.
Yeah. Okay. How did you get into all of this? Like when you were in college or a kid, did you think like, I want to be, in the environment? Like, was it like, what sparked your interest?
Yeah, so I grew up like fishing, hunting, camping, and just always loved that. Out of high school, I didn't really know what direction I wanted to go. Kind of milled about different odd jobs for a while. Ended up going to Shasta College, got my associates in natural resource management, and then shortly after that, got on with the state. And then over time, kind of slowly got my bachelor's degree in environmental science. But in 2008, a job opened up with state parks, working on a trail crew, and I said, well, what the heck, let's try that out. And I just kind of stuck with it ever since.
What does a trail crew do?
They go out, they're most of the time they're maintaining trails. So all of the trails in the park, which is a tall order, whatever park you're in, there's usually miles and miles of trails.
Right.
And then also looking at making new trails and making reroutes and just making it safe for people.
I think that so often people take it for granted that the trail, well, we just maintain it by stomping on it, right? But have you ever done the Half Dome hike at Yosemite?
I have, yes.
So you get to this point and it's past Vernal Falls and it's before the switchbacks or whatever, but there's just these big slabs of the huge stone steps, and it's like, how on earth did a human way back in the day, before we had the machinery that we have now, get these slabs here and in place? I'm always blown away by people who do that kind of trail work.
Yeah, in state parks, we have some extremely talented trail workers.
Yeah.
They go in sometimes in the backcountry, and they're backpacking in there and camping overnight, just working on trails for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
Hard work. They're using these big grip hoists to move big timbers. They're breaking rocks and stacking them. We call it like dry stacked masonry, like incredible. And they've been doing it a long time, and they try to pass their skills on to the next trail workers coming up.
Do you guys work with like the scout troops and stuff to let them do some of those projects?
Sometimes with the scouts, mostly with the California Conservation Corps.
Oh, right.
So they have programs where where we come out and we train them on trail techniques, and they go out with their C1 and with our trail crew and do a lot of the work in state parks.
Explain that to me, because I know we've done stories before and we're like, oh, California Conservation Corps crews were out training with the firefighters or doing XYZ. What exactly is it? Is it like an internship program? How does that work? No,
so the California Conservation Corps, it's really started for at-risk youth, but it's open to anybody. I think it's 18 to 24, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it's really just a program to get people interested in doing work outside. I think their motto is something like hard work, miserable conditions, low pay. But you can really learn a skill, and they have different programs, whether it's to learn firefighting, trail building. They do some of the highway maintenance, and it gives them an opportunity to kind of learn a skill, learn a trade, and then be employable. So when they finish their program, they can apply to some of these agencies and get work.
Yeah. How long does the program last?
I think they're a year at a time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What a cool opportunity. I'm thinking of one of my sons right now. He loves working with his hands and like being outdoors. Hasn't quite figured out what to do after high school, but he just wants to be like active, like not sitting at a desk,
For sure.
What a great opportunity that could be.
There are also a lot of opportunities directly with state parks, especially for young people. We're still in winter, but we're already thinking about summer hiring for our seasonals. And there are opportunities for maintenance aides, for park aides, and for seasonal lifeguards.
Oh, yeah.
And for a lot of people, those turn into careers.
Right.
So If you go to our website, you can learn about the career opportunities and some of the seasonal jobs we're hiring.
Yeah.
In, I think it's April, we're going to start doing seasonal lifeguard tryouts. And for a lot of those that pass the test and get on with us for a season, they end up going on to become rangers or our law enforcement lifeguards and get some of the best training in the state and go on to have really fun careers with the park.
So let's talk more about the law enforcement now that you've mentioned it. So like if you're out on Lake Oroville and say you're drinking and boating, right, something like that, and a state parks boat comes up to you, I mean, you treat that like just like you would a police officer on the road, right?
Absolutely. Our rangers are full law enforcement with the authority and jurisdiction statewide. So their primary responsibility is to patrol the parks, but they do all kinds of outside assistance with other agencies. They do special assignments, and yeah, they're full peace officers. If you're boating under the influence, a BUI we call it, you will get a ticket, you will get arrested, they will take you to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's the protected, I mean, these are armed law enforcement. If there was something to happen and go wrong, they are trained and ready to respond to any sort of situation.
Absolutely. And that's their primary goal is public safety.
Yeah.
So they're enforcing the rules, but they're looking out for the people that are visiting the parks.
Yeah. It's funny, like when you're a kid, well, I don't know, at least for me when I was a kid, we'd look at law enforcement officers as not the bad guys, but like, oh, you're going to get in trouble, you know, like avoid. And as an adult, I think you come to realize that ideally, like the more law enforcement, if we see that around us, that like the goal would be public safety, not to get people in trouble, right?
Absolutely, 100%. And with our rangers, so they get some of the best training in the state, and part of their training is interpretation and education and talking with people. So when you see a ranger in our park units, they're the friendly face. They're often one of the first people that you see, and they're there just to make sure that you're having a good time, that you're safe. They're gonna, make sure you're following the rules, and if you're doing something that you shouldn't be, they're gonna let you know. But really, they're there for you and for your benefit.
Do you think that, going a little bit back to the efficiency thing, have you seen like AI be implemented in terms of like the jobs that used to be human jobs, or just helping out with law enforcement or that sort of thing?
Not yet. Not in state parks, but I bet it's coming.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing AI kind of blow up everywhere.
I was so resistant to it at first, and then I started using it as a tool, and I realized, okay, as long as you're very aware of the fact that you can't just take it as fact. You have to, like when you chat GPT something, you have to understand it's pulling information and you better check its source for it. But it's pretty fantastic what it can do.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I think it's going to be, useful. It's like cautiously, thinking about it, but we'll kind of see where it goes.
They just had this big trade show in Vegas, and all the companies were debuting like AI things. And there were so many things built in there that were like, jobs, right? Like just a lawnmower, like an AI lawnmower, things that we do in our spare time. But I'm curious to see, like, when it comes to like trail building and that sort of thing, like what sort of robots we'll see out, at Bernie Falls in 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit. I think we're a long ways off from that. So, jobs with state parks, I think might be the way to go right now.
Yeah.
Put a plug out there for that you might have a secure job safe from AI taking you over.
Yeah, that's good to keep in mind. So being out in the wilderness is, you always hear, especially in Northern California, especially up by Mount Shasta, you hear weird stories, right? Like everybody talks about Bigfoot or like, just strange sightings. Have you heard of any stories of like from credible people who just encountered something weird out on the trails?
From time to time we do, and usually it's going to be wildlife, but we always like to get reports and hear what people have to say and what they're seeing out there.
Right.
And we'll go check it out too. If somebody says something, we're going to take their word for it and go check it out. But nothing super like out of the ordinary.
Like they thought it was chupacabra, but it was really a coyote with mange.
Right. Yeah.
Something
exactly.
like that. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I have no doubt that people, they do see things and they must think that they're crazy, but maybe Bigfoot was just some really hairy guy who was out for a stroll or something.
It's possible, yeah.
But
yeah.
nothing's convinced you that there's anything out of the ordinary happening out there in the wilderness.
I don't think so. Sometimes we do have like trail cams out when we're tracking wildlife and
Yeah.
things like that. And one time earlier on in my career, I did have a park maintenance chief go out in the evening dressed up as Bigfoot because he knew where one of our game cameras was. So it was a joke, but it was super funny.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Are there any investigations that you're aware of in our area that are open, where State Parks is helping to, maybe a missing person or anything that, you're asking the public for help or to keep an eye out about?
Not in our state park system
That's
right
good.
now. Yeah.
I remember hearing about it was when I started here as a reporter, there was a shooting in around 4th of July, I think over at one of the campsites at Lake Oroville, and I don't think that they ever caught the suspect in that case. I wish I had the guy's name.
Yeah.
It's probably 10 years back, but yeah, you don't hear of it too often.
No,
Out
yeah.
in nature, out in the wilderness.
No, usually people are out having a good time. They're going to get away from it all and recreate, and they're really not there to cause trouble.
Yeah. Okay. So your Northern Buttes District, I know we talked about Bidwell Mansion, Lake Oroville, a little bit about Bernie Falls, but this is a huge swath of Northern California.
It is, yeah. So our district spans from Sutter Buttes in the south all the way up to Castle Crags, Bernie Falls, Shasta.
That is Castle Crags. Ooh,
I
love that.
Yeah,
hike.
it's such a beautiful
Yeah.
park. And then we go from Lake Oroville as far west as Clear Lake,
Okay.
and then the valley parks in
Now,
between.
Trinity Alps, is that part of yours?
It's not, so we border
Okay.
that, but yeah, we're right
Yeah.
there at the crags.
Yeah. So what are some up and coming projects within your district that people could expect, maybe in the next year or so? What are you really focusing on?
So one thing that I'm really excited about, and we're still trying to work out the funding, but it is a new campground. It'll be at Bidwell River, Sacramento Park at the Irvine Finch area.
Okay.
So we're working on preliminary plans right now. We had some funding to do the planning, and now we're trying to get the rest of that funding in place to see if we can get that off the ground. And so that will be really exciting. I think we would be looking at about 35 new full hookup campsites there.
Okay.
And a little visitor center and some offices for staff.
So right there where the launch is, you could
Yes,
actually
exactly.
camp, stay overnight. Nice.
Absolutely, yeah. So fingers crossed that we're going to get that one off the ground.
Yeah.
And then, in terms of other types of things that gets me really excited right now, one of them is this library state parks pass.
Oh, yeah.
It is super cool. So trying to break down barriers and get more people access to state parks and the outdoors,
Yeah.
created this library pass. So anybody that has a library card, so you can go to your library, get a library card for free, you can check out a state park pass, just like you would check out a book. Generally, they're good for about 3 weeks.
Okay.
And it's just a beautiful hang tag. You put it in your mirror.
Yeah.
And you can go to state parks for free. You don't have to pay day use.
Yeah.
And so something really exciting and super cool that a lot of people don't know about yet.
And the incentive there is, to get families also more access to literature, kind of encourage, I'm at the library, maybe I'll check out a book.
Yeah, absolutely. Books and nature go together. A lot of famous authors wrote books from after being out in nature. And we even have some parks in the North Bay that are named after them, Robert Louis Stevenson. And so it's really cool, and it's also to try to break down that access barrier. We want people to know that these are your state parks. They're right here in your community. We want you to be able to go out there and visit. And sometimes that $10 day use fee or $8 fee, is it's a barrier. It seems like I'm not going to go there. I don't want to pay to park downtown. You know.
Right.
So if we can remove that and get people out and experiencing it, then it's a win for everybody.
Yeah, I love that idea. Yeah, I knew that about the library thing, but I didn't quite get the motivation. But yeah, that makes sense. And it's just paid for within the state parks budget, essentially.
That's
just
right, yes.
Supplemented, yeah.
That's right.
Do you have a favorite state park?
Oh, I get asked that a lot, and it's so hard to pick one.
Yeah.
There are 280 state parks
Oh my gosh.
in the state system. Yeah, we're the largest state park system in the country. And they're all so unique and diverse. It's really hard to pick one.
Yeah.
In our area, I'd say Bernie Falls or Castle Crags.
Yeah.
But if I want to go fishing, Lake Oroville.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to pick.
Castle Crags is so cool. I just did that relatively relatively recently. It kind of reminded me of that Yosemite sort of vibe.
It does,
with
yeah.
all that. Is it granite
It
rock?
is
Those
granite,
big slabs,
yeah.
and the story of how they believe that formed, and just like the crust moved right and just shoved the rock up like that or something.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's unfortunate, the story of I-5 getting built and kind of going right through the middle of the park. It was always supposed to go around, but it's still such a great opportunity to go there and camp, and the views of Mount Shasta are incredible from there.
Yeah. Now, Mount Shasta, is that part of state parks or no?
It's not.
That's
no.
its own.
Yeah, U.S. Forest Service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else that you want people to know, especially for those who really haven't ventured out into state parks much, or they don't really know what their state money is going toward when it goes towards state parks? Yeah,
come out and visit. If you have questions, just talk to staff. Come to our district office is in Orville off of Glen. And don't be afraid to come out. And a lot of people think, oh, it's nature, I don't even know what to do. Come talk to us. We'll help you out. We want you to be out there and experience it. So.
All right. Well, Matthew Allen, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Great
Thank you.
having you here.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening today. I decided to offer this podcast after enough of you let me know that you wanted a deeper dive into certain stories than you get on our TV broadcasts. We elect certain people to represent our voice, but who are they really? My hope is that this podcast answers that question. I love your feedback, and I want to know who you'd like to hear from next. Just fill out that comment section and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Spotify.